Hello, hello! Today I wanted to go over with you a hopefully helpful and somewhat concise beginner's guide to Elden Ring. While this seems like a silly topic given how long the game has been out, I thought it may help those late to the party. With the DLC around the corner, some folks may want to get acclimated to the game and not know where to begin. So with this beginner's guide, I'm going to speak to you as if you've never played a FromSoft or Soulsborne game before. If you are already well acquainted with the series, I am so very, very sorry. Now, Elden Ring is a lengthy action RPG that may ask a lot of you. However, my hope is that with this guide is to give you a strong foundation to build your own experiences upon. There's something here for everyone. Either way, this guide should also be helpful for getting a fresh character started. Most folks are going to want to pick a character based on their starting equipment or stats. This is a standard fare for most RPGs, but Elden Ring is a tad different. I'd recommend you pick a character based upon the stat you are certain you won't use. Across the course of your playthrough, you are likely to gain dozens of levels, likely approaching level 150 by the end. Every level gained equates to one stat being raised by 1, meaning for an effective distribution of these points, it's wise to pick a stat you won't use or level, one of the bottom 5 stats, like Strength, Dex, Intelligence, Faith, or Arcane. Take the Vagabond for instance. His lowest stat is Arcane, followed by Faith and Intelligence for his next lowest. Arcane is for status buildup, like poisoning an enemy, some spells, and a handful of unique weapons. If you think you're going to be a martial character and not use the Arcane stat, he's a great choice. So let's go over the stats briefly so you can think about what you probably won't use. Vigor is related to max health. Every build will use this. It's phenomenal. This is your new favorite stat. Sorry, this is how you had to find out. Mind is related to FP, or focus points. This is spent on spells, some unique items, and weapon skills. While similar to mana from other games, everyone will use their FP a little, even if they never level the stat. Endurance is equip load and stamina. Your armors, talismans for unique bonuses, and weapons all have a weight to them that you'll need to balance out. More stamina means more actions while in combat as well. Strength and Dex are for martial builds. Generally you'll have some of each, but focus on one as a martial depending on the type of weapons you like. Intelligence is for sorcery and magic weapons. Faith is for incantations, which are like holy magic, in addition to holy or fire weapons. Arcane, as previously mentioned, is for the building up of status effects like poison or bleed, and casting some unique spells and a few select weapons. The common thing is that Strength, Dex, Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane all influence the way you do damage. Also, I recommend the Golden Seed for your first item. This will give you a bonus rechargeable healing item, a sweet deal for a first timer. Now let's make our way to the real open world portion of the game. Naturally, there are exceptions to what I've mentioned thus far and will mention in the future, but you'll learn about those cases in time as you experience the game. See that golden boy over there in the distance? You don't have to fight him right off the bat. That's what the first 2 bosses of this game are trying to teach you. Some tasks are insurmountable and meant for later. This little crescent arc statue is a summoning pool. You can summon other players at these should you need help with encounters throughout the game. Simply use a Furl Calling Finger remedy, and any signs that are available will appear. You can even use passwords to summon specific friends, who can place their summon sign anywhere you decide. Though this help comes at a cost. When cooperating with other life players, you can also have your world invaded by a red phantom who will try to murder you. Sticking with your friends and staying alert will be your best defense, along with time and experience. Note that you cannot be invaded when playing alone normally. There is an exception, but it's optional. Throughout Elden Ring, you will find cookbooks, which will give you access to craft useful, expendable items. I recommend getting each and every one you see. The first slew are found in Kale's shop at the Church of Ella. Having situational supplies can help immensely, like the holy water pots when fighting the undead, or more notably, the Deathrite birds. The crafting kit is very cheap. Just kill a few dudes or break the golden rune item just out front the Church of Ella to get started. Taking the time to read item descriptions while boring can help you understand what items are for and how to use them. You can even read the descriptions of items you haven't yet made to help you learn. Looking at your horribly blank brown map will show off these little obelisk sketches. Going to these places will reveal a map fragment to give greater detail to your map. There really isn't a reason to skip these, and they'll help you explore the world. And you can mark it with your own stamps should you ever need to revisit something in the future. Now for some early journey recommendations. While I hope you've already found this, we'll start from the beginning. First, travel to the Gatefront Ruins site of Grace and sit down. Here you'll have a story beat and gain the ability to level up your character at any site of Grace. In addition to that, you'll get the whistle to summon Torrent, your own double-jumping magical steed. Torrent will be invaluable for traversing the lands between and grabbing all the important early items I'm going to end up telling you about. In fact, if fighting is too scary, you can use Torrent right away to pilfer the cellar of the Gatefront Ruins. Here you'll find a wet blade that will let you apply weapon skills to your weapons. We'll expand on that a little bit later. After you've spoken with the mysterious woman at the Gatefront Ruins and gathered the Wet Blade and Storm Stomp, it's time to return to the Church of Ella and speak with a different and equally mysterious woman. She'll give you the Spirit Calling Bell and the Lone Wolf Ashes. You don't need to do anything special with the bell, but just by having it, it will let you use the Lone Wolf Ashes, which may help you in some early encounters. Just a little southeast of the Gatefront Ruins, there's this funny little bush that talks to you. Roll at it gently, and the bewitched fellow inside will hand you some easy mushrooms. You can use mushrooms to make pots for throwing at enemies. These cracked pots, like the ones you can purchase from Kale, come back after you use them, while the other ingredients are consumed with each use. If we follow the road by Bach eastward across the bridge and then follow the fork in the road northward, you will eventually find yourself at the Third Church of Marika. Churches are always worth exploring, as they tend to have high-value items, either inside or really close by. Here we will find a sacred tear, which I'll go over later, and the flask of wondrous physic. This is another potion that'll recharge at sites of grace, but unlike your red and blue flasks, this one will be a little more specific with its special effects on you. Finding crystal tears throughout the world will let you customize this rechargeable potion to give you a little boost before regular but notable encounters. But don't forget to put something in the wondrous physic. It's empty right now, so we're going to sit down at the site of grace and make sure we've put something inside of it. Something is far better than nothing. Sites of Grace will also remind you with a little dot symbol that you have golden seeds, sacred tears, or dialogue to be had. Back to wondrous physics and their crystal tear mix-ins, expect to find extra crystal tears in little stone bowls, well as around the minor Erd trees. Some will be guarded, others won't be. A good early mix-in for your wondrous flask is the Crimson Burst Crystal, which is given after you defeat the boss by the minor Erd tree on the southern Weeping Peninsula. That particular crystal tier will heal a little over 1200 HP over the course of 3 minutes. The nice part, you can drink it before notable fights to keep the healing going during the fight. Other notable mix-ins are the Strength Knot and Faith Knot crystal tiers, which give 10 points to Strength and Faith respectively for 3 whole minutes. A little boost to your damage and a little boost to your damage resistances as well. There are mix-ins for dexterity or intelligence up in the North Country of Liurnia if you're interested. I'll either trust your adventurous spirit or Google to help you find them. Though this encounter may be a little tough for new players, I think the wondrous physic is very worth it, as it'll help you slide past other encounters with the obscene amount of early healing you'll be receiving. Now there may be better crystal tears later on, but for early game I rather like this one. And there it is, it's the red one, in case you were curious. Moving on, golden seeds are used for increasing the amount of red or blue flasks you have. Getting lots of these early will allow you to make more mistakes in combat. I will show you where the easy to access ones are in the first 2 major areas. They are easy to see because they're usually beneath a glowing golden sapling, though some are rewards for clearing dungeons. Sacred tears increase the potency of your red and blue flasks. They're usually found in churches, so explore them. There's 1 in the Third Church of Marika in Limgrave, and 3 in the various churches on the southern Weeping Peninsula. While having more heals is of course a great good for your character, having more potent heals means they'll go farther and likely cap out your health. Next is Gloveworts. They are upgrade items for your Spirit Ash friends, the non-player NPCs who can bail you out of trouble whenever you see the purple tombstone icon on your screen. I'm going to show you where in the Mistwood you can go deep underground to a place called the Siofra River. We'll take a field trip here to show where you can get Ghost Gloveworts, specifically Gloveworts levels 1 through 5. But first we're going to take a moment to grab the underground map, as well as another cookbook that will let us cure an advanced version of poison called Scarlet Rot. That would be very helpful later on in your playthrough. Now I'm going to show you exactly where to go to get enough Gloveworts to upgrade any Renowned Spirit Ash up to +5. And they're not in the correct order, but you will have all of them once you're done. So if you watch the screen, you'll see me blitzing across the landscape, grabbing each level of Glovewort, and if you pay attention, of course, to the map and to the path, you should be able to do this relatively unscathed. I'll just let this footage speak for itself for a moment. Oh, would you look at that? One more golden seed. I figured I'd include it here while we're getting all the Gloveworts anyways, as to not confuse anybody who likes to do this guide in sections. So we're going to ride up along this cliff, we're going to hide behind the tree because these snipers have homing arrows, and we're going to sit down at the Grace quickly to make sure that the enemies aren't attacking us anymore. That is a trick you can use. Resting at a side of Grace will make the enemies cease fighting you for a bit. And here is that final 3rd level Glovewort. Across your adventures, you will come across these fog walls locked by stone imps, and they require stone sword keys. Some take 1, some take 2, but opening them up usually gets you extra rewards, and there's plenty of keys throughout the game, so feel free to spend them. As long as you're exploring, you will find them, and that is how you open up the Fringe Folk Hero's Grave. Now, before we find a Renowned Spirit Ash to upgrade, we need to come here to the Stormhill Shack and talk with Roderica. She will hand us another Spirit Ash, and then we can decide what early Ash we want to upgrade. There are 4 within reasonable distance of the starting area. Banished Knight Ingval can be found in the Murkwater Catacombs, Banished Knight Oleg can be found in the Fringe Folk Hero's Grave, and Lutel the Headless can be found in the Tombsword Catacombs. Latenna the Albinauric, however, is far north, and I will now show you the path you can take to get her. She's a little more convoluted though, because you have to get all the way into that north country. You not only need to find Latenna, but you need to find a key item given to you by an old man named Albus. This key item is half of the Haligtree medallion. Once you have that and you talk to Latenna, she will give you herself as a Spirit Ash, though she is hiding behind a dungeon of her own, that being the Lakeside Crystal Cave. Now, there is an issue with the 3 first Renown Ashes I have listed for you, and the 4th one has a fair bit of travel required. The issue with the Banished Knights is that you'll need 16 mind to have enough focus points to summon them. Lutel the Headless will take 17 mind. Latenna will take no mind investment, but you have to go on this lengthy journey just to get her, which requires speaking to the elderly NPC I mentioned before to get a key item, and then completing a dungeon to even reach Latenna, and then exhausting her dialogue. In fact, that's what I will be showing you here on screen in case you are curious for the path. Now, while having these strong spirit ashes, especially upgraded, can help you through a lot of your adventures, if you want to do the Lakeside Crystal Cave, you're going to need to be probably a little stronger. I would recommend upgrading your weapon 2 to 3 times, and at least having the flasks under your belt, maybe 20 vigor or such. You know, just a little bit under your belt. That end boss can be tough to that dungeon on your own. However, the rest of the path shouldn't take hardly any combat, or combat that's skippable. In fact, on screen now, I'm going to show you that you can just sneak behind this fellow by the tree, who could pose a problem if you have unupgraded weapons. I'm hoping you'll watch the whole guide in its entirety though, so you'll be strong enough by the time you get here, and doing things in an order appropriate for you. Here we find Albus. He hands us the Haligtree secret medallion, and then after you clear the Lakeside Crystal Cave, you can talk to Latenna and exhaust her dialogue. She'll give you herself as a Spirit Ash, and she is very cheap on the blue stuff. To even upgrade her Spirit Ash, we'll need to get to the hub area. To do so, either enter the castle and beat the first boss, or leave the starting zone. Sitting at a site of grace will trigger the event. The hub area is very good to unlock because you can upgrade your weapons, yourself, and get access to numerous shops. Once here, talk to Roderica and the blacksmith repeatedly and rezone, and Roderica can upgrade your Spirit Ashes. Now for leveling. Just get the minimum stats needed to wield weapons you like. Pour every point you can into Vigor this early on. I know, leveling health sounds lame, but you'll need it. You'll see much bigger health gains beyond 27 Vigor. You'll focus a damage stat once you have 35 to 40 Vigor, and even after you've gotten around there, keep leveling Vigor until you have 58 or 60. Early infusions and scaling. Infusions early game will come from specific Ashes of War, and infusion decides what stats your weapon mostly pulls from for its damage. Heavy is strength, keen is dexterity, magic is intelligence, sacred is faith, and bleed will combine strength or dex with arcane. Here's a map of Limgrave's Ashes of War. Most are hidden in scarabs, and one in a nighttime only bridge boss. I would grab them all and experiment. These Ashes of War are the skills attached to your weapon, and you're free to juggle them all around in all kinds of weapons, free of charge. Here is even a vendor that sells Ashes of War in case you need more to experiment with. You can of course apply these Ashes of War or weapon skills to your weapons at any site of grace thanks to that wet blade you grabbed in the Gatefront Ruins cellar. And it will even show you how it changes your damage. Regardless of your build, I would recommend going to this beach here. You can fall into a Spirit Spring wind tunnel from above with Torrent, your mount. Gravitas is an Ash of War that hits a whole area around you and pulls in enemies. This is useful for catching moving scarabs, well as pulling flying enemies out of the air. If you aren't a wizard or wizard adjacent, just use the standard infusion when you put it on a weapon. Once you've explored more of the game, you will find additional wet blades that will let you place even more infusions on weapons as opposed to just the natural infusion an Ash of War comes with. Either way, I would play with as many as you can so you can get a good grasp of what's in your arsenal. Ashes of War are the spells for the melee character. All sorts of Ashes of War have niche uses you can utilize across your adventures. We're going to use Gravitas up here to hit this invisible moving scarab because it hits in a wide area, and we find another Ash of War that way. Or if we're surrounded by flying enemies, we can pull them out of the sky and dispatch them quickly. Each Ash of War comes with a native infusion until you find more wet blades and can change that. So I'm just showing some on screen. We have 3 heavies, 3 keens, 3 qualities. Quality is both a combination of strength and dex. And we even have magic, sacred, as well as bleed. You can see how it changes the attribute scaling for each weapon. So we've talked about upgrading Spirit Ashes, now we'll discuss Smithing Stones. Smithing Stones are used to upgrade your weapons, not only their base damage, but their scaling. And this is where most of your early damage is going to come from. The weapon, not your stats. There are regular smithing stones which are brown and special somber stones which are white. Regular weapons use the regular stones and special weapons use the special white somber stones. Each stone has a quality level, which lets you know how many levels that grade of stone will take you. For instance, a level 1 smithing stone can upgrade your weapon up to 3 times if you have 12 standard smithing stones. Caves are places which are represented by these black dots wreathed in orange. They are a great place to find smithing stones. You'll really find these stones all over the place. To give you a head start, here is an open field where you can trick a troll into breaking this statue. Inside is almost enough stones to get a basic weapon to +2. Ta-da! And there they are, 5 level 1 stones and even a level 2 stone. Standard weapons upgrade all the way to +25, and somber weapons all the way to +10, though these weapons aren't weighted equally. One somber upgrade is equal to 2.5 standard upgrades. Why is this important? Because when you summon actual people or are invaded by one, the bracket of available players is dictated by your character's level, and the highest upgraded weapon you've ever owned. Meaning, if you're playing with friends online for most of your adventure, I'd recommend keeping your collection of favorite weapons near the same level as each other. Time for talismans. You may have noticed this funky slot in your inventory beneath your weapons but above your quick slot items. This is a talisman slot. The item you put here will add a bonus to your character which can ease your adventure. 2 early talismans I'd recommend are the Blessed Dew and the Radigan's Scar Seal talisman. The Blessed Dew is easy enough to get. Travel to the top of this tower and open the treasure chest. Be sure to light the Sight of Grace and run past the mean old golem to grab your prize. You can stop the golem from squishing you by sitting down at the grace again. This talisman simply heals you a little bit over time, simple yet potent over prolonged periods. The second potential talisman is the Scar Seal, which adds +3 levels to 4 of your physical stats. Quite good for most builds, but it comes at a cost as it lowers your defenses. However, the extra max health usually makes this worth it. Just make sure to read item descriptions so you know what strings are attached. That, and try to wean yourself off the Scar Seal by the time you're level 60. You'll thank me later. There's a stronger one called the Radigan's Sore Seal far to the east, and don't use that one past level 60 either, but the bonus stats can really help early on. Looking at the right side of the screen, you can see it changing the percentage of my different resistances as I take on and off the talisman. We also get the 12 or so virtual levels, so you can see why you may want to wear this piece early on. If you want extra slots for more talismans, you've got to find big bosses. The one guarding the entryway to Stormvale Castle would be your first. Though tough, with this guide and the tools you'll have after some playing, you'll be able to handle that big meanie beyond the Golden Fog Wall. Third to last, you ought to be told about memory stones if you're a caster. They're found all over the place, but the first is in this wizard tower in the Weeping Peninsula. Use Torrent in the Spirit Spring to hop up there, and then find the imp statue holding a book to start the puzzle. Find and smack 3 tortoises and you'll open the way to the treasure. The first tortoise likes to hang out in the exact middle of the nearby pond. Just get close and watch the water. Puzzles are meant to be tricky. Second to last, there is a merchant over here in the Weeping Peninsula. He'll sell you a lantern, which is a hands-free source of light. It's a must if you don't want to wave around a torch or find a sorcery for conjuring light. I tend to put my lantern in one of the 2 pockets that isn't accessed by holding Y or triangle plus a direction on the D-pad. Now, I can't tell you everything about Elden Ring. It is roughly a 100-hour RPG if you take the time to explore most of the nooks and crannies available. I can't even expound to you all the nuances, secrets, or exceptions to the broad generalities I've told you. Hopefully, you now know enough to get started. If you took my advice, you should have the tools necessary to get out there and find the Elden Ring. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.